Hi, I'm Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to GameKeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the GameKeeper crew direct from Osceola Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, it's Valentine's Day here across the world. And West Point, Mississippi, we're happy to have everybody here. Home of Mossy Oak brand camo, the GameKeeper studio. Richie, my headphones aren't working. We got what is going on here? I can't hear anything, Rich.
We can hear you, so maybe that's on purpose.
So.
I think they weren't plugged in.
No, I still can't hear anything. But look, I think we've got some Army World War II surplus equipment here at the table, and Richie is trying to run it. But maybe we can get through.
I hope we're not being spied on or something.
Ooh, Dudley. Don't make me put my tinfoil hat on already this morning.
So let me set the table. This is we love this guest. We've got Dr. Marcus Lashley.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for having me. I love coming on the show and talking to all of you.
We gotta work on his. He's working on being a Marvel Comics character, Dr. Disturbance.
I like
so
it.
they're gonna have he's gonna be in there with the Flash and Spider-Man
Big
and all those
flame
people.
on his chest.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah. There you go.
I heard they were working on something like that. That's exciting.
Richie, what happened to the horns? Now we got the Jaws theme. What is?
I thought it went along with Dr. Disturbance.
That was the score that they're picking out for Dr. Disturbance movie.
And it's Florida, the University of Florida. I get it now. So.
I thought they were the Gators, not the Sharks.
Yeah, but their band plays that. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Let me kind of set the table here. So I'm looking at Dudley. Dudley, are you okay?
I'm
restful?
great.
Yeah,
I'm great.
Yep. Next to Dudley is Lanny, who's got his laptop up, checking Facebook. And
I'm always on that
Marketplace.
social media.
Yep. Toxie is at the other end, and I feel like you look like you're highly caffeinated. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
You've
Pretty
got that.
caffeinated. I could be more caffeinated.
You got that look about you. We've lost Mac because we've lost a couple of microphones. So it's like one day we're just going to be down to one mic.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll make it work. That's how we started.
Yeah,
go kick the wall real hard.
And then we've got Rob, who is our mustachioed friend over there with this big red mustache, and Richie, who is over here pushing buttons and wires and.
Chairman of the boards.
Oh, that's not a good one.
But today, guys, we have Marcus Lashley, and he hails from kind of a part of the world we love.
Very special part of the world.
Let me think. I heard that band playing of some kind of song a minute ago, but it seems to me there's a different fight song for your alma mater, your undergraduate school. Mm-hmm. Is that not correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Marcus, you look like Paul Bunyan in there with your flannel shirt on and your big thick beard and what is all that around you on the wall?
Well, it got cold outside. It's 88 degrees today, so I had to wear a little heavier garments. And I found this stuff in the trash, so it looked like it would be warm in here.
Egg crate.
It's a good look.
I'm actually in a shooting house right now, guys.
For years.
Can we get your podcast producer to hook up with our podcast producer and work on our audio somehow?
Yeah, I'll send y'all some of our gear to help y'all out. I'm actually in the shooting house too. So
there you go.
Oh my God,
now that's real.
That's
real.
rubbing it in. That's not
awesome.
Fair.
Well, guys, it is Valentine's Day.
It is.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out, y'all.
Shout out to all the ladies of Mossy Oak.
That's right. Get your honeydew list done because turkey season is coming.
All the rest.
Well, she just had a birthday, didn't she?
She did on the 2nd. Yep.
So happy belated birthday.
That's right. Yep.
And so while I'm thinking about that, so today one of the this show is brought to you by, and I'm also Lanny, you're looking at me like, who is this show brought to you by?
Who is this show brought to us by?
So we've got some friends that we helped get into the clothing business, and they've got a brand. Toxie, if you paid attention to little Evie the other day when she killed her deer, she was wearing some bow and arrow outdoors kids clothing.
How about that?
So I just want to give them a shout out. They sent some clothes for Evie, and it's a brand new brand, Bow and Arrow Outdoors, and they're outfitting clothes for kids.
Great.
Really cool.
Marcus, my granddaughter, 6, killed her first buck in and around Sumter County near Livingston.
Sure did.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep.
Super proud of her.
It
That was
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. It was really cool. Really
Yeah,
cool.
I got a opening day hunt lined up for my 6-year-old daughter for turkeys this year.
Nice.
So
Oh, wow.
I'm really excited about that.
That will go good. Has she been with you before and to listen and watch and observe?
She has with deer a few times, and she loves that. So I hadn't gotten her where she had a turkey gobble in her face yet. But she sees a lot of footage from it where we're trapping turkeys and that sort of thing, and she's all over that. So I think she's going to like it.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
That's
Can't
exciting.
wait to hear a story.
Man, there's nothing like it with the youngins.
No
I know.
doubt about it.
Yeah. Lanny, did you know that there was a Super Bowl last week?
Oh, is football season still here?
I was
thought it was
curious.
time to burn.
Can you name one team that was in the Super Bowl?
I actually, believe it or not, paid attention to this year's Super Bowl. They had a lot of Mississippi people in it, so
that's true.
I can actually tell you both teams. I think so.
Oh,
Kansas City and the Eagles from Philadelphia. Is that it?
Yeah,
that's a
the
first.
Kansas City who?
He's come a long way, Bobby, because
The Kansas City.
20 years ago, I was wanting to see if he wanted tickets to the state game.
Yeah.
And I go, maybe we'll go. I'll see, and I was talking about like such and such player. We got a really good quarterback. And he was like, is that offense or defense? So he's come a long way. You have come a long way.
I have come a long way.
Marcus, do you have tunnel vision? Are you so focused on habitat, turkeys, fire, and all that you don't pay attention to other things going on around you?
I would say that's pretty accurate. Yeah, I'm getting ready for turkeys gobbling right now,
That's
so
right,
I'm not
yep.
thinking about much else.
Yeah. So I assume you're burning and you're probably putting out traps.
Yeah, we've been doing a little bit of that, and I've been focused more of starting up a turkey research project. So we've been trying to get them under a different kind of trap, the actual turkey instead. So we've been tagging turkeys for the past 2 weeks, pretty hardcore.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Can you tell us about
Yeah,
that?
tell us
That's a
about what's going on
good
there.
place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So there hasn't been that much work done, at least published work, on Osceolas in a couple of decades. And we've got some good information from various sources that indicates that they're probably doing pretty decent. But, we wanted to basically launch this project and try to get an idea of what the vital rates like survival and nesting success and poult rearing success and all those things to get a baseline on the populations in various areas of their range. But then we're going to use that as a launching board to do some more science on them that I think will be pretty broadly impactful, I hope.
Are you going to be able to take like blood and tissue samples at all from that?
Yep. Yeah, we are.
We're that's
yeah,
going
we're
to be. I'll be
sampling.
interested in that. Just can't wait to see it when you get it.
Yeah. So we're so far everything's been going really well. We've successfully caught quite a few birds, and it's the launch of the project, and we're going to try to keep building on it and expanding to more sites and all those sorts of things. But really excited about the work, because I think it's something that's needed, particularly on that subspecies. We just haven't worked on it as much as other ones.
Most of the places where where you guys are talking about doing this research down in Central and South Florida, there are so many wild pigs. Do you see them having an impact on the Osceola and the nests and the hatchings?
Well, I definitely hear and see the concern, and that one of the sites that we are on is slap covered up with pigs. So I think we'll get at some of that with this work. If you talk to Mike Chamberlain, Brett Collier, across a lot of their studies, they don't seem to think that they've had a big effect on, those study areas. I hear them say that on the air sometimes. I haven't personally seen it either, but I think it's worth looking for it to see, is it a problem? But one of our sites, they're all over it. So if it's a problem, it will be there.
Well, the few times. I've been down there chasing Osceolas a handful of times, and it seems like there's more pigs down there. I mean, we've got a lot of pigs here, but they've got a lot of pigs down
Ooh,
there.
that makes me warm.
Yeah,
That makes
and
me shiver.
in this part of the country, though, they're so concentrated on the drainages, and they're not nearly out in the open prairie because we're in the Black Belt prairie through here. But down there, they're kind of everywhere. Is that fair to say, almost? Because it's just kind of habitat for them everywhere, you know?
Yeah, and they've also been there since the 1500s.
Right,
So they've been there a long time, had a chance to establish shop, you know. But there are definitely some places where there aren't that many, or they aren't there at all in Florida. And particularly if you get into some parts of deep southern Florida, there's fairly low populations in some areas. So they're kind of spotty. Another big aspect of that research that I'm really interested in, I think everybody will be, is right now we can't tag hens on all the sites, but we have several areas that are paired where we have a hunted population directly adjacent to an unhunted population. And we're really interested in comparing a lot of the things going on in those populations between those two scenarios. So I think it's, that's important work that we need to, to look at, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I know Mike talks a lot about, it jumped up in his face, how much more even than he thought hunting pressure affected stuff. Even to the point, especially, the gobbling and the turkeys, but to the point of maybe even the nesting success stuff. So it'd be interesting to know, maybe a lot of hunters don't want to hear that, but they need to hear it. They can make their own decision, but just being a little more conscious of how you go about hunting and how much hunting, because hunting, you could kill turkeys on your place and not do as much harm as like the type of pressure you put on them, not killing many at all. So that's just, I think it's, for me, instead of having my own little theories, I love listening to research that has addressed that. Adam Butler's really big on, collecting data about that too.
Gosh,
it's taught me a lot.
Where do you find an unpressured piece of property these days?
That's right. It's hard.
Not around here.
Well, I mean, I think what they're saying is maybe you should be a little more thoughtful about how you go about the hunting and stuff too.
Sure.
Well, I think, there's a lot of research ongoing right now, and we're a little bit behind on our project compared to some of these other ones. But there's a lot of work going on just trying to figure out, what does that relationship look like? Is it something that we should be concerned about? And what do we do about it? Because all of us, all the researchers are hunters, just like everybody else. We all want access to the resource, and we all want it to be sustainable. We're trying to make sure, that we check all those boxes. We want to, have turkey hunting around for generations. I certainly want to be out there with my grandkids doing it too. So
absolutely,
that's right.
So Marcus, you kind of grew up in a turkey-rich environment, and I'll go ahead and say it. You probably grew up in one of the areas where the turkeys are as tough to kill as anywhere that turkeys live.
That's why I didn't kill many.
Well,
we're just gonna say that.
You kind of cut your teeth on some bad turkeys, but when you moved to Florida and had access to those, okay, well, I'll give you that. But were there some myths about the Osceola that you kind of had in your mind, and when you got down there, you were, well, this isn't like I thought at all? Because I think there are some things about them that are a little, there's some wives' tales that necessarily aren't true.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of that, and I definitely think I'm going to develop more intimate knowledge of them through this whole process with these research projects. I will say the times that I have gotten out on them, they have still been elusive to me. I did have one misfire event where I got one close enough, and then I've had several close encounters, and they gave me the slip, and I have not actually killed one yet. I can't.
What?
And
we're taking turkey hunting advice from this guy. And
it's habitat management.
Management.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, where I was going,
I do believe the last time he was in the studio, he had a little, fresh meat on the
I had
shoulder.
one over my shoulder.
Yeah, I had one over the shoulder. So, I mean,
he did.
Not many have walked in here like that. So,
yeah.
No, that's
props
Well, I
to you
didn't say
there.
I'd never killed a turkey. It's
Yeah.
just the, the access is really hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
To get on birds here. And then on top of that, I've been pretty busy since I've been down here trying to catch them and do all that. So I haven't been able to spend the time that I'd like to trying to, but
well, you're a hard-working biologist. You're out there trying to figure
Yeah,
these
you could
things
tell you
out.
love it because when he walked in there that day, he had that glow. We didn't even
Oh, yeah.
didn't even know what he did, but he walked in and there was this aura.
Well, we knew
around
he had
it.
killed a
Yeah,
turkey
yeah,
that
yeah,
day.
yeah.
You know, the
Didn't even
word
have to say it.
the word that's thrown around so much about turkeys, but I think it has a lot to do. I'm saying what Marcus says. I always yield to him. That makes them different. Isn't just that they're Osceolas or Merriams or whatever. It's like where they live, the habitat, where they inhabit makes hunting them a lot different than one to the other.
Yeah.
I would for sure. Obviously the Osceola is most similar to the eastern, and it's most similar in the kind of habitat for the most part too. But I think that we use the word habitat a lot, and sometimes we just gotta glaze over and say it. It has so many important meanings. I think it differentiates the four main species as much as the bird itself,
Yeah.
Sure. The
Well,
landscape, what other predators are chasing after them, it varies from area to area.
Well, going back in time, 15 years ago, I'd always heard that the Osceolas didn't gobble as much as the Easterns.
Oh, that's not true.
But
That's
when I
not
got
true.
down there, I found that to be just the
What I found, and he can back me up or not, is they'll gobble. They're more kind of weird about it. It's like you don't hear one, you call, he doesn't answer you. You call, he doesn't answer you. And then all of a sudden, he might gobble like 10 times in a minute. And then, it's like, boom. And then he might not, maybe that's because they're moving and they don't gobble. But I've just noticed they hit spurts of it more than just gobbling constantly like ours might. Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. That's certainly been my experience when I have been out. But I've also I've had a few mornings, including the one where I had the mishap, that they just gobbled their face off all day.
Wow. Now that's fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So tell us about this mishap. What do you think you did? What did you learn from it? Can we help? So if you'll explain it to us, we'll critique you, Marcus.
yeah.
Whatever,
Of
Bobby.
course, Bobby will.
Like you're
guys,
to guide somebody out of missing turkeys. Are kidding me?
So what I'm saying, I've missed
guarantee
so
you.
many. I can help you with this,
I
Marcus.
didn't miss. It's the only time this has ever happened to me. I was on the way to a turkey, and I guess I pumped the shotgun while I was in the woods in the dark. And when I had the turkey in front of me, I pulled the trigger and it did not go off.
Click.
And then I realized there was a toothpick sized stick that got wedged between the chamber, and it was right over the pin. And
Oh my
the
God.
gun did not go off. And when it was standing in front of me, of course, it was strutting right there, and I'm trying to, I was thinking that I didn't have it closed, and I could not get it to close. And then I just had to let him strut away from me. And when he went over the hill, I realized there was this little twig stuck in the chamber there. And then I cleaned that out, and I never got a chance again after that.
Toxie, I don't know if you remember it, but one time you and I were on the dummy line, and you had killed a turkey right off the roost.
Like
and
when his feet hit the ground.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And bless your heart, you shoot left-handed, and he came up on the wrong side there for you. It was anyway. But do you remember we left and got up, set up on some other turkeys, and I forgot to load my gun.
You did. In fact, that turkey was in the SMZ to the south of the dummy line. And
Wait, let's not get that specific.
yeah, I'm just making sure my memory's right. And this turkey comes up like 10 steps.
Yeah,
because it's pretty
close.
thick.
He's close, and you were behind me about 20 yards.
What is going on, Bobby?
And so I ended up killing turkey. I forgot to load my gun, and it went click. And he just stood there looking at me, and I was shooting a pump, and I managed to shuck it and get another shell in and killed him. But when I got back to Toxie, he said, "You've got the loudest safety I've ever heard." And I said, "That wasn't the safety. That was the gun going click."
Yeah.
But Marcus,
Well, I forgot to push the safety off, and I mean, I've had
Oh,
plenty
my
of
gosh,
mishaps.
yeah.
I've been through the ringer of all of them, but
Turkeys out of any
it
animal
happens
will
to everybody,
make
yeah.
you
Oh,
do
my
something
gosh, yeah.
stupid.
Yeah,
they
no
really
question
will.
about it.
I've done plenty of them. and it's embarrassing. So I appreciate y'all having me tell it on the air to everybody.
We don't have enough time for me to tell all my mishaps.
Oh, my
gosh. And
Yeah,
a lot of them have to do with no shell in the gun. So
Yeah, I'm still sick about that one.
So
You
Marcus,
forget about it. What's Mr. Fox say? You forget
my
about it.
dad would say, "Don't worry about it, Marcus. You'll forget about it in 15 or 20 years."
15 or 20.
Yeah.
yeah. So Marcus, before we leave the Osceola and just kind of move into talking general turkey and some burnings, we've got some questions. So it's so fascinating how dark the bars are on their wings. And some are a little darker than others. And it looks like the tail feathers are a little darker. They're not quite as heavy. And maybe they have a little bit better spurs. Is there any other things about them that kind of that are a little different than the other species?
Yeah. So now that I've been handling a bunch of them, there's a couple of things that I have noticed that, I don't know how consistent it is, but it's been consistent on the birds that we're handling. One of those things is the iridescence is a blue. They're just, the color of the feathers is striking to me. So I always thought that, they'd be real drab and, the barring is broken and those traits. But when I had them in hand, I just really, really appreciated how beautiful the colors were in the feathers. I just didn't expect that. And the lines on the bars, on those feathers are so clean. I mean, it looks like they're painted. It's just, they're immaculate. So that's one thing that I really noticed. Another thing that I thought has been pretty interesting is we've handled quite a few hens, and I think we're running on close to 10% of them have spurs.
Wow.
Whoa,
That's pretty significant.
that's new.
Like sharp spurs or kind of Jake spur?
No,
bucks?
it looks like a young Jake spur.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's probably 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch type on most of them, but a lot of them have them. And I at first I thought it was just the one site we were on, and maybe there's something weird at that site, but now it's happened on both sites. And I don't know what to think about it, to be honest with you. I was kind of surprised at that.
I guess
Did any of y'all know that?
No, I didn't.
No.
Well, I've never heard of 10%.
I've never
That's a
held,
lot.
Yeah,
held a hen to know. So
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
get a picture, Marcus.
Yeah.
The other day I had, in fact, yesterday I saw a picture from Sumter County. It was the 13 hens, and actually it was a little bit of video, and for sure 3 of them had beards out of 13, which is
Wow.
a pretty high number, But
Yeah.
there's a very common occurrence that, I see bearded hens every single spring.
Yeah.
It's real common.
Is there a percentage to those? Is it
I
about
don't
10% or
I
so,
don't know.
Marcus?
He would know
I
more
don't.
than
I
me.
don't think it's quite that high. I think it's it's pretty common, but it shouldn't be. I don't think it's 10%, but I don't remember the numbers on it. But I've never heard anybody talk about spurs on hens at
Never,
all.
not a time.
Much
Nope.
less.
Seemed like
So
they
that
would
was-
if there's
that's
10%
been-
of them with them.
Well, that's down
Well,
there
I don't
too.
know if that's-
Yeah, that may be in
Yeah.
his area.
Yeah,
It could be
yeah,
genetic
yeah.
to his area.
Be geographic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
It's like I killed a turkey in Sumter County that didn't have any spurs.
I've had that happen.
had that
quite a few
happen,
times.
too.
Yep.
In
and
Sumter County.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's apparently pretty rare in general, but
Yeah.
in Sumter County, I know several people that have brought that up to me that
Yeah.
they had killed one without spurs, and I did that once.
I'm enjoying this conversation because Marcus is like a plant specialist and disturbance specialist, and we're all theorizing about turkey
Turkeys, of
biology
course.
and physiology, which I think that's great. We're just kind of having a roundtable discussion.
Well, I'm actually trying to get to a point with you, Marcus. I wanted to ask. We hear not a lot of talk, but there's a little chatter out there that there might not be really any difference in the Osceolas and the Easterns. And I was just kind of wanting to kind of get your opinion on that.
Yeah. Well, I think that they definitely share some different morphological characteristics, and that's been demonstrated, and that's a product of the environment. Where the other part of that comes, that comes to a head is there was a big research project, and I think it was published in the early 2000s, where they collected genetic samples from turkeys all over the range and the other subspecies all separated from each other, but the easterns and Osceolas genetically did not. And that's where the turmoil comes in, is trying to decide where do you draw the line. And, there's enough gene flow going between the two subspecies that kind of muddies the water up.
Right.
But they are definitely distinct in terms of the way that the birds look and different characteristics. I mean, we have enough data to show that they do have morphometrical differences, but that's where the turmoil came from, is that genetic work.
Yeah, it just occurred when you said that as things have evolved, even just this century, with the expansion and the success and the spreading turkeys, most all eastern turkeys in the whole country, their origins are from the southeast, right? Because that's the only place we had them to start trapping. But if you look at turkeys today, ours here came from over on the Mississippi River north of Greenville. That is one of the places there were still turkeys when they were almost extinct, just like the famous spot in southwest Alabama. And my observation is our turkeys here remind me much, much more of an Osceola than they do a Missouri or an Illinois or an Iowa turkey.
Oh, yeah.
Because those turkeys are actually very different looking, and they're not even as kind of long-legged, and they get so big. And I know part of that, just like the big deer, is they evolve because of, there's more to eat, and the survival of the fittest in a hard winter. And
there's a weird word for that.
Yeah, but it just seems like, all that's just evolved because of the habitat and the geography. Because ours here are much more like an Osceola than they are a Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
Your little observation about the iridescence is interesting to me, because that's like a humid environment, and then the further you go west and north, it's almost like they take on a more dull, like the more arid the environment, they almost have a dusty appearance to them.
Ours are famous for the bronze look, along with some blues.
Yeah, and that's more of the birds that I've handled have been really bronze like that. And then the first hen that I was handling, I was just blown away. I'll send y'all some pictures of it. The blue is so brilliant and bright in her feathers. I just could not believe it.
Makes you think how they, how they perceive it in their eyes, when she's out there, what she looks like.
Yeah. It's been really interesting, because I haven't spent that much time around the Osceolas, until this project launched. And I definitely have grown to really appreciate them very quickly.
It just reminds me,
amazing
the
bird.
First time I laid my hands on one as a kid, and it was actually one Daddy shot, not me, but I was completely blown away, mesmerized, sucked into a black hole about the beauty of the turkey. I had no idea, and I think anybody, most people on this podcast already know that. But man, whoever has not seen one in person, touched one or whatever, they're so much more beautiful. Than you can imagine. Looking at pictures and things like that, it's crazy. I get so I'm gonna say emotional, but it's almost a spiritual thing when you kill one and the sun's shining on it. I almost don't want to leave. I just want to sit there and pet it and look at it.
It's like looking at a fire.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the most, I've always said, God's artwork trumps anything Michelangelo or anybody human ever did. And that's just always, to me, I was born for that, I guess. It's the most beautiful artwork on the planet, just about, to me. And people don't realize that have never been around them.
Yeah. Well, that's what even I described it. It looks like their feathers are painted.
Yes.
When you're looking at them close, it looks like somebody painted it. So one other thing, guys, that I think y'all will appreciate, and the audience probably will, we started characterizing the turkeys by their behavior, because the individual variation, we have some that, they just seem to be happy about everything, and they just sit around and they don't care what's going on. And then you have some that are like that boss hen kind of deal, where they're really angry and aggressive the whole time and trying to get away. And then you have this variation in between. And I've had a lot of fun thinking about the implications for that stuff. And you all know the boss hen, and you know what I'm talking about from the hunting perspective, but then having them in hand and watching them separate out in behavior has been really interesting to me. So we've started characterizing their behavior so that we can, then look at radio tag data and nesting data and everything as it relates to their behavior.
So you could almost assign a personality type to each individual.
That's what we started doing. Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
And that, I'm just thinking out loud here, but if you could have like clutches in captivity and raise them and see what their personality types are, like, is it common when you have a clutch of 10 or 20% of them going to try to be the boss? And, is it, or does that change when only one or two of them make it,
Right.
Interesting stuff to think about.
Yeah. It's been really interesting. And I'm just fascinated with it when we're sitting there, and I'm thinking through all that stuff and the implications. And you hear Mike and Brett talk about some of their work where some hens just were really good at it. Then I'm wondering, was that the ones that have a particular personality? Or there's lots of interesting things that you could glean from that. But I just thought, from a behavioral standpoint, people would appreciate that, because you experience it when you're out there, chasing turkeys around. They're all individuals and do their own thing. But now we're collecting some data to show that really clearly.
That's really cool.
And then you probably got some, if they're like Dudley, they may have multiple personalities.
Exactly. Yeah, that probably does exist. It's funny. I know I've mentioned this on the podcast, but having chickens kind of helped me notice those characteristics. Some of them were better moms than others. By far. Some of them were just plain dumb, and there's no way they'd make it. Like Bobby.
Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Touche.
That away, Dudley.
So, Marcus, these old school cattle ranches that are down there in the central part of Florida that look like they're so important to the habitat of the wild turkey, and probably this wildlife corridor that I keep hearing about and everything. Are those guys historically into burning and disturbance? Have they bought into what you're preaching down there?
Yeah, I think a lot of them have. Before I was talking about it, a lot of them were already implementing fire and grazing together on the landscape. And I think a lot of those places look really good for turkeys. And, that some of those kinds of landscapes, we'll say part of the corridor and part of those lands, are probably why some of our data that's been collected in the state indicate they may be doing better than another other subspecies. I don't think we have enough data from the research to know one way or another yet, but I think you're right onto something. I think at least in the spine of Florida, there's a lot of intact turkey habitat, and there's a lot of burning going on, a lot of grazing, and it's keeping the landscape in a shape that can produce a lot of turkeys. And that's really, what I want to make more turkeys rather than take away opportunity. And if we can get at solving issues by increasing productivity, I think that is what most people would, get behind. So,
absolutely. That brings a great thought to mind, because I'm always talking about, as a hunting community, we got to adapt our harvest and whatever we do to the population. And I know, that might not be popular, saying, okay, just don't kill a limit or do whatever, but you've got the best goal of all. And that's what I would really love to see, is that we have such a healthy population that we can have more turkey hunters and have access to more and more people.
Yeah.
And to get to love and understand what we do, and but have it in a way that continues to grow and prosper for the resource and not set them back.
Yeah.
But, I just keep saying, but if we're doing something that is setting them back, we got to cut it out. We have to pull together. But I love what he's saying is his goal would be to be so successful in the way we adapt to how successful they are in hatching and create that we create more and more opportunities. Because that's what the turkey world is upset about today, is that has gone backwards in the last whatever, Marcus, 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And we're understanding that. The good news is in some areas, and I don't know why or what, we've had a pretty good turnaround here in the last year or so.
Yeah, I think so. The data from multiple places indicate near record hatches last year.
That's incredible.
And, at state level, and Mississippi's one of those.
Yep.
What do you?
So, there's the other thing I wanted to add to that. We've talked to Craig Harper. I know you guys have had him on, and Adam Butler, and several of these folks. And then there have been a few studies recently that have come out. One of them was Brad Cohen and Mike Chamberlain, and then one was from Harper's project, and then one from South Carolina. And all three of them were consistent that we had single digits of the landscape, which was considered high quality nesting and brooding. Like if you put those two together, we're still single digit percentage of the landscape in those studies.
Wow.
And, that to me is a real red flag that we probably have some problems with productivity that need to be addressed. And, unfortunately, it may reduce opportunity if you don't address the productivity.
It's actually where I grew up in south of Montgomery.
Used to be as good as in the entire country.
And you would, there were large peanut fields, large agricultural fields. If you drive through that area now, you see a lot of pine trees. A lot of those fields were taken out of production and put into pine trees. That's got to have a big effect on some birds.
Possibly, but possibly not. I mean, that's peanuts are kind of a food source, but I mean, Marcus could speak to that better than me, but I wouldn't say that would necessarily knock it back. I mean, because the peanut field itself is not nesting habitat whatsoever. It's just a big open area,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily provide very good brooding either. But at least I think one big difference is that it is at least a high sunlight environment.
Yes.
And when you have lots of sunlight, you start to have odds and ends places that are still usable. And in a landscape where you don't have any sunlight, even in odd places, that's where I start to get concerned about, nesting and brooding in particular.
Yeah, and so it just leads me, my dominant train of thought these days is that, you take the work of Dr. Chamberlain or, Marcus and and the best of the best. They are right there with the best of the best. And help people understand more and more. This is kind of the whole gamekeeper way. Is like, let's take control of our own destiny. Let's don't just stand back and complain about everything. Let's learn from the people who really know. And it's not necessarily us, although we get access to a lot of information and we can help. But people like Marcus and Dr. Chamberlain. And let's, whether you've got, again, I just like a broken record, 4 acres, 400, 4,000, doesn't matter. Practice those things on yours. The only way we'll ever make a big difference is everybody pulling together that has effect on land. And I mean, to the point where maybe we need to lobby or pressure some of the big timber holding companies to change things too, because they have a lot of limitations sometimes that won't let you do the right thing. But my point is, it has to happen every acre at a time. It's not just some broad stroke of talking about it. Right. And so the more there's a gamekeeper, that's our brand.
Sure.
We can educate people, but then enable them to take those things. A lot of it doesn't even take much money at all, And so that's just what I want to keep saying is that don't sit around and complain. It's okay to bring things to bear that need to be made, but let's do something about it.
Take action.
Yeah, find a place and take it. And the other thing I'd have to say, Marcus, is that don't expect miracle overnight, but what we have seen on the places that I have effect on is like doing the right thing that I felt like doing the right thing. And then all of a sudden, after a while, it's kind of like growing trees, Dudley. It's like you don't see it overnight, but after years and years of doing stuff, all of a sudden, wow, what does this place look like now? It takes time, and you will see the results over time.
Yeah, and perform those tasks, like you said, at the scale that you have access to.
Well, it's like deer hunting. If you just all you do is put some attractant on the ground to shoot deer over all the time, nothing's ever going to get better. But if you continually are doing things to improve your place and are mindful of it, then in a couple of years, you start seeing better deer and more deer and stuff like that too. The same way, make the working on the habitat and doing whatever it's trapping and everything else that Marcus will tell us to do, or Mike or whoever, and make that as much fun as important to you as going and shooting stuff. And the next thing you know, you're enjoying getting out there 52 weeks out of the year doing stuff, and your hunting gets better. Boom. And that's the way, that life of abundance is what we're trying to help people get to with their wildlife.
Yeah. When you really start to intrinsically value all that, that like being a part of the land and a part of the production of turkeys, and then harvesting that turkey becomes such more special.
Oh my gosh.
Just being a part of that whole process. The other thing I wanted to add, I recently had a really good conversation with Adam Butler about this from data that he has from Mississippi. And, he has some private lands where there's groups of landowners. They have pretty good, pretty large impact together. Those types of properties where they're really putting a lot of time into the habitat work on those lands, they're sustaining a much higher harvest rate than you're seeing on average across the state. And, he articulated that really well. I don't have the data in front of me, but it was substantially different.
Yes. He's so good.
Like 3, 4, 5 times the amount of birds being harvested sustainably comparatively.
We can do
it's just a testament of how important the productivity is for dictating opportunity.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So,
Forever the kids would say, Dad, what's the best state to go? Kansas, Missouri, Texas. Where's the best place to go? I said, so it doesn't matter how heralded and historic and unbelievable, turkey place is. If it could be the ugliest, scrubbiest thing in the world, if you hatch a bunch of turkeys, you're going to have great turkey hunting. And if you cease to have good hatches, it's going to stink. And it's that simple. It really is. That's exciting to know. And the thing I was going to say a minute ago when you were talking, it jumped in my mind, is that we have less of an excuse to misuse the resource today because it's so easy to take kind of an inventory with your cameras. We didn't have that years ago. And so I'm seeing pictures, last year of all of a sudden jumped up on the screen like you hadn't had in years, jakes, and I'm seeing a few more longbeards this year. I'd like to see more than this, but there's a few jakes. And so, you would know by that, okay, let's kind of make a plan. We've got this hunting club. It's, 800 acres or 2,000 acres, whatever. And, we think we can kill 4 longbeards or we can kill 2 longbeards. And like Mike says, he was laughing about the guy that said, we've got like 10 jakes on the place. And we've got like 6 longbeards. So it's okay for us to just kill them all, right? And he was like, "No, you missing the point,
Yeah. So in the old days, you was kind of visual. What you heard,
he would just go, look. Let's just face it. We go hunting and we just go kill turkeys.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
But now you can at least go if you want. What's it worth to kill an extra turkey or 2 this year if you're really doing your place harm for the long run? So now we can do so much better. Right now, how to judge that? I would use someone much better like Marcus or Mike or somebody to say, okay, if you have this much, I've just always heard if you had a really big hatch of jakes, you could fairly liberally harvest longbeards. But
what is the right ratio? I've hered,
who knows?
What do you think, Marcus? Is it if you've got 4 longbeards, you should take 1, or like Toxie said, I was trying to get all but 1 before, but we got to kind of stop all that.
There's kind of a rule of thumb out there, and to be honest with you, we need better data on this to really iron this out. But the rule of thumb, and it comes from some literature and modeling from years ago, is about 30%.
30%.
If you're staying under 30%, you're probably in good shape.
Of gobblers or mature gobblers?
Of the gobblers.
Okay.
Yeah, longbeards.
So, okay. Then the biggest effect of that would be if you had a great hatch and you're seeing a ton of jakes. So, and sometimes it takes care of itself, because I've experienced, like last year we had some jakes and it made it harder. it made it harder. They were running everything off. I had 2 or 3 times I just covered up in jakes.
Yeah, there's some of that personality coming out right there. They were aggressive.
The
30%.
I had those mess me up 2 or 3 times this past season on Osceolas.
But I don't mind. I never mind it. I never mind Jake's messing up a hunt.
Hey, Marcus, before we go any further, I need to point out to Lanny.
I know what we're fixing to talk
only
about.
Harvesting 30%. That's not leaving 30% land.
I understand this.
Okay, just make sure.
I thought you were going to
mark
start
that time
talking
code.
about.
Rich, you wake up over there if you would, please.
But if we triple the productivity, then you have
absolutely.
30% is a lot more birds then.
That's right. So realistically, I mean, to be safe, it's 1 out of 5. You hear that, Bobby, don't you?
Yeah.
No, look, I can. Whatever needs to be done.
Oh, look at him! Right. He's crawfishing. He's crawfishing.
Well, no, you kind of have to, Mark. So, Marcus, look, when we travel around and meet people, I've yet to run into somebody that isn't willing to adjust their behavior.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, it's the occasional guy on social media that's like, I got plenty of turkeys. Why should I not?
Right.
So occasionally I see that on social media, but not face to face. Are you experiencing the same thing?
Yeah, I'd say I think social media it has a lot of great aspects about it for everything, but that definitely amplifies some of the negativity. I think that's pretty clear.
Oh gosh.
And in general, most people that I come in contact with, they want answers, and they want to know, okay, what do I need to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And for particularly the turkey enthusiasts, you guys get stuff done. Like I'd go and meet with people or whatever, and then next time I meet with them, they got it done.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's right.
So, Marcus, are you obviously you're burning right now, getting ready to burn? Are you trapping as well?
I haven't been, no. So that's mainly, it's not because I dislike trapping or anything. I just don't have anywhere that I have access to close to do that.
We just recently did a trapping podcast a few weeks ago, and I went and got some. My wife gave me some traps for Christmas. How about that? How sweet is that, Marcus?
That's
and
a good wife,
so I caught
Did
my
you buy
first.
her some for Valentine's Day?
Yeah, that's what I need to. But I actually caught my first raccoon and a possum this past week, and I think we got a banker friend here in town that's just gone. It's like Milton Drysdale has turned into Paul Bunyan.
Yeah,
he's trying to.
Yeah, our buddy Tim O'Brien. Since the trapping podcast, he's the same. He went and saw the guys at Duke's. And he has been trapping on his place, and he's been sending me pictures of what he's been catching. But he sent me pictures of some coons, a bunch of nest predators, and then guess what? The last picture he sent me was a flock of 15 turkeys sitting in the same spot. I mean, if that isn't proof in the pudding, I don't know what is. So, shout out to Tim for taking those penny loafers off and putting on those knee boots and getting out there and trapping.
Dudley, I know you got a question for Marcus.
we were talking about the big bounce rate, I guess you could say, with the poult hatch this year in a lot of areas. Have you heard what are folks theorizing about that? I know in like the tree world, whenever there's a stressful period, a lot of trees will often produce a lot more seed. Like you see that a lot with pine trees. After a drought or something, they end up throwing a whole bunch of seed to compensate. Do you think that this bounce in this poult hatch, there is a chance that it could just be stress, just like coyotes will breed a lot more due to being trapped heavily? Or do y'all, are folks theorizing that may have something to do with better habitat, where folks are tuning in and doing more habitat work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there are a few biological mechanisms that could kick in, and I don't have very good data on any of them to speak to this particular instance. But when you see a hatch like this, where it seems to be pretty broad scale, that indicates to me that it's probably environmental.
Yes.
So, and one thing that happens when you get rainfall at the right time, or don't get rainfall at the right time, you can really ramp up productivity for species like turkeys. And, just having more rain, you end up with more forbs through the summer. And we know that promotes the kind of structure that they need to be successful in brooding, but it also promotes a lot of food, particularly insects. So, that's one potential thing. Another thing that we do see in some species is like what you just described. If if they fail to do well, they kind of build up energy reserves, and they're in higher or better condition, and that could play into reproductive success when conditions are right. And some of the species like turkeys are kind of cyclic, where they have this boom bust cycle in productivity. Even in a population that's doing excellent, you still see ups and downs from year to year. And that's one way that kind of cyclicity can happen, is because they, in the bad year, they're in better condition as a result of not going through that hardship, and then they take advantage of the good year. I think I recently had a discussion with Brett Collier about that with his work on Rios, where they have this really distinct pattern in rainfall and success in the birds. And that was kind of what he alluded to, is that they might even abandon trying to reproduce in the poor drought years.
Yep.
And then everybody goes all out. I think he said something along the lines of poults literally just come out of the cracks in the grounds and everything. They just show up everywhere.
Yep.
And that there's that pattern and resource availability there, but there's also seems to be some biological feedback of the hens in that case, and their overall health and energy reserves and everything. They can really take advantage of it when it's good. So if you take that and apply it in a habitat context, if you have really high quality habitat and you make things good, they can really take advantage of that really quickly.
Yeah, because I'm listening to you, and I also think a small factor, at least, is the fact that in these years, I mean, it's woken up so many people in the turkey world as we've had less and less numbers, and people are having less success hunting and all that stuff too. So to the point where, when you start to lose something, you appreciate it a lot more. And we've had all, this outcry about what's going on, and people have feverishly worked harder at establishing habitat or managing for that, and a lot of trapping and a lot of stuff. I just feel like when you have, the only explanation could possibly be for a broad scale higher success rate is weather. It just about have to be.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at, on top of that, the people have larger areas, just like Adam's area he was talking about, several thousand acres working collectively. You can just put an exponent in front of the number of success they have. And so I think that raises the bar for everybody, because when a particular landowner or group does a lot of work and has an explosive hatch, they're going to bleed off to all the other landowners around them some too.
Sure.
And I just feel like, what we're doing as a collective in being so conscious of habitat and predator management stuff helped raise it to even a higher level than it would have been, and especially probably the states that more people are doing that had more success. There's no question it makes a difference. I've watched it on our own places relative to others, and there's so many, it's so complicated what happens, but over time, it's definitely paid off.
Just to add to that, one thing that a lot of people, it doesn't intuitively just jump out at most people in my experience, but the habitat is providing you a buffer to when it's bad.
Yes, exactly.
And it is providing you leverage when it's good. So, when you said the exponent, like, it's one thing for everything to be bad at a larger scale and you not to be as bad as everybody else because you have good habitat. But the other thing is when habitat is good and the environmental, the environment is good, then things get great. And that's when you have these really huge hatch years, is because, you have to have that habitat in it. So it's not as bad. You're hedging, on that when things are bad. But then when things are good, you have opportunity for them to exploit it.
So I've got your buzzword. You just said it actually. So the whole habitat conversation is the turkey hedge fund. Because that's exactly, when you describe it, that's exactly what it's doing. When the market goes down, you doesn't go down nearly as much, but when it takes off, it's like explosive for you. Yeah. And so either way, you're going to be safer. And so you said the word hedge a couple times too. But when you first said, I said that's a great way to use the buzzword for that. Is like create your own turkey hedge fund.
The turkey hedge fund. I like it.
Yep.
Buy the dips.
Yeah. So so y'all mentioned weather. Toxie, you specifically mentioned weather.
No question about weather being the top thing.
Are y'all hearing that we're going to have an early spring?
No, who knows?
Marcus, are you hearing that?
Well, I've heard it. I don't know if that's true or not.
I thought the groundhog said it was going to be.
I'll say this: we had that cold snap, and it's we're obviously having warmer winters than ever. But this is the first year, maybe 10 or 15 years of having a lot of cameras out. I have yet to see a picture of a turkey strutting, and it's the February 14th. We usually see them start to strutting in late January in places, especially further south than here. So I don't know if that's just an anecdotal thing with me. I've heard people say they heard a few gobbling already. Well, that's normal, actually, in the South. But I have not seen – I've got a few pictures of gobblers, and you almost always at least see something already doing some strutting. I have not seen the first one yet. So, honestly, I would rather not have such early springs myself, especially in my love for Alabama, and they've moved the season back 10 days. It goes on over into May. I'd love to have a later season for a change myself,
Yeah, and just anecdotally, sitting in the blind several times in southern Florida, I was expecting to see some strutting and hear gobbling. I heard a couple of gobbles one morning, but this was early February, like last week, and I was expecting to see a little more indication that they're kind of firing up, and I wasn't seeing that either. And we saw a bunch of groups of gobblers together, big groups of gobblers. So it seems like, they haven't really gotten ramped up yet, or at least as of last week.
Yeah, I saw a crude poll on social media the other day where people were asking the same thing. Are they still doing their winter thing, or are they doing more spring stuff? And
so do you think
way more people said
one other theory, because this is not anything we can affect, but it just seems like all the years, like I've got 50 years of like anecdotal data in my head, but in watching what happened, it's like I kept remembering when we had dreary, rainy, cloudy, like Februaries and early Marches, we just didn't have as good a gobbling and stuff that year. We'd see like turkeys never gobble. It'd be, dominant birds gobbling, but you see 3 or 4 in a group and they never even strutted much. It was just like weird. And then when you had a lot of bright sunshine, it seemed, and so I just theorized, which is probably crazy, because I know the amount of daylight triggers the hormone, right, Marcus? And I'm just wondering if we have really cloudy weather, maybe there isn't quite the hormone level as if we have a lot of bright sunshine. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. That we have the sound boxes all over the landscape, and I know Chamberlain and Collier have them, and I
got to get me one of those.
Osby's got them all over the place. We have so many of those things on the landscape now. We ought to be able to figure that kind of stuff out. So what you just said, like we're tuning in on huge landscapes to all the gobbling.
Yeah.
So we ought to be able to figure some of that stuff out really well.
So the thing that's been jumping in everybody's head, Dudley and Bobby, we all talked about it for the last 10 years, and it was kind of almost unspoken fear things like, what's happening? I don't want to wake up someday and the same thing that happened to our quail. It says, what's happening? I don't know. Talk to biologists. What's happened to our quail? I don't know. And that's kind of stirred a lot of this stuff today. It'd be fascinating to know, because it could be as simple as what's happened in the environment in the last – we've had more and more of those really cloudy springs, drizzly, dreary, early times. And so less hormones and less gobbling, one is good at hunting, and also might be leading to less poults, and less eggs being fertilized. I don't know. It's a possibility.
Yeah, you said something earlier, I appreciate and want to restate it. It's so complex.
Yes.
Like we've got lots of hypotheses and trying to isolate that hypothesis is really difficult, especially when there likely are many of them operating simultaneously. So we probably have lots of problems that are going on.
Yes.
And we're trying to figure out what is the relative impact of each one rather than which is the one. And I think that's what most people want to know. Well, what's the problem? And it's like, well, it might even be better to say what isn't the problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just like when it's something broad, this like really got me got my attention more, is in when you say something happened from a broad scale basis. So, in an individual area, there's so many things could be happening there, so different than the next state area. But when it happened in a big broad area, it almost begs it had to be environmental.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be, I don't know that, but it just seems that it'd have to be. So what is that? And unfortunately, there's probably nothing we can do about, the cloudiness or whatever that is, but at least we could understand what's going on. I don't know. Who knows?
And on the flip side, if you have a bunch of cloudy days, your average person isn't going to be as enthusiastic.
Correct.
It's going to be windy. You're not going to be able to hear as far. We go on the Bluebird sunny days every time, and we listen really hard. So some of that could be going into play.
Well, I remember last time I was in the studio with you guys, I slept in that morning because it was storming, then still carried a turkey in there over my shoulder.
That's right.
Yeah, you did. Sure did.
There you go.
So, guys, Marcus, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we getting about 60 or 90 more seconds of daylight? I mean, every day right now?
Like 50 seconds.
Yeah, 50, 45, something.
Yeah. It's an odd number like that. But the day length is growing.
So that's what's triggering this hormone in the turkeys.
That's an important factor for sure.
Photo period.
Yeah, and that's what's triggering a deer's antlers to drop.
The does to come in heat and everything. So.
Nature is just, we say it all the time. It's fascinating.
Bobby learned.
It's unbelievable.
Like with the rut, I don't want us to go too far down the path, but I did a big literature review on the rut one time recently because I was getting so many questions about it, and they were trying to figure out, well, how do we know definitively that photo period is initiating the rut? And I got into this really awesome line of research that I was reading about where we have some studies where we've literally put animals into a room where we can control photo period and reverse it and manipulate it, and we can change those things. And then the coolest experiment, they caught a whole bunch of deer and took them to the exact same latitude on the other side of the equator, and they reversed exactly 6 months and all their processes, their hormones and everything. They immediately changed, and they were able to show that it wasn't just the length of photo period for the population. It was actually how the photo period changed to hit that period, that day length. So in other words, that's why it wouldn't, you have the same day length twice a year, essentially, where it's, in one case it's getting shorter, in the other case it's getting longer.
Right.
You'll hit that same median level there. And they were able to demonstrate with that experiment that it was specifically shortening and hitting that threshold. And of course, what that threshold is varies depending on what population you're in, which is why you see differences in rut timing, across the South or whatever. But it was pretty remarkable to me when I started getting into that, some of the really clever experimental work that shows definitively that is what's happening.
That's so fascinating. It just tells me nature is always trying to adapt to what is best for survival.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Dudley talked about, in fact, he can even tell you about sometimes to make like fruit trees really put off a lot of fruit, he goes and kind of damages them just a little bit, not enough to hurt them, but enough to scare them and stuff like stress like that. And so it's amazing, all this stuff, if you take it down there, it'll adapt back to what's best for that particular environment. I mean, just the point about everything you do, nature adapts. And that is the governing philosophy of all research, everything we do, hunting, everything. Nature adapts. It's amazing.
So, guys, Marcus has got to go teach some students here.
He's been
in just a
teaching
few
these
minutes.
students all
That's
So-
right.
But before time
next
runs
class.
out, why don't we let Dudley? Why don't we turn up? And Dudley needs a little wind underneath his wings, guys. He's doing such a great job with these questions. I'm just
Dudley has a bigger fan club than you, Bobby, and it's making you jealous of him. I know what the problem is.
And this morning he was a little worried. Am I doing a good job with these questions? And yes, Dudley, you're doing a good job.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you.
Marcus,
he
you
had
might
to get
want
that in because he's getting more and more in your shadow these days, Dudley.
One, he's expecting him to do it more and more often. So.
fasten your seatbelt there, Marcus.
All right,
because
Marcus.
Here they come.
Can you hear me clearly?
This is called
I
Rapid
got you.
Fire, and it's brought to you by our friends at Springfield.
Springfield Armory.
Okay, so pretty much all this is turkey related.
Of course.
Good.
And understand you can say neither, both, or pass.
And there's a little bit more detail here.
no pressure.
Wait, do I have to answer them or I can pass to somebody?
You need to answer these.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Be nice,
Okay.
Dudley.
On the way to the hunt, early in the morning, do you blare the jams or keep it quiet?
I'm a jam guy.
Shotgun.
AC/DC.
All right. Thunderstruck. Here we go.
Shotgun, 12 gauge or 20 gauge?
I shoot a 12.
Okay. Shotgun, camoed out or old school?
Mine is hand painted.
Okay.
Ooh.
That's kind of right there in the middle.
Very cool.
Hunting style, wait a little longer or go ahead and make a move?
I'm making move.
Mouth call or friction call?
Mouth.
Face mask. Do you have the habit of immediately removing it or do you catch yourself wearing it to walk to the next spot?
I might even wear it to lunch.
Like Mr. Fox. That's what he does.
Snake boots.
It's sitting over my beard.
Snake boots. Absolutely or nah?
Nah, I don't.
Open
Usually
sights or need some help?
Need a little help.
Would you say you are gear light or gear heavy?
Gear light.
Lucky hat or rotate the hats?
Lucky hat.
And last but not least, M&M's, Trace Hermanos, or Diamond Gems?
Ooh.
Diamond gems.
Oh,
right.
good job.
Getting close to home there.
That's good, Dudley.
That was excellent,
That was
Dudley.
good, Dudley.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. There's some
Yeah, that was
affirmation.
All right.
Marcus, you're always a lot of fun.
Oh,
we
my God.
Absolutely.
enjoy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You guys, you and Dr. Will Goolsby have a super popular new podcast. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. So Will and I got together, and we're trying to figure out how to help turkeys. And there's a lot of great content out there in the podcast sphere, and you guys are part of that. And we thought we could complement a lot of that great content by trying to give a really scientific heavy perspective on that. So we launched a podcast called Wild Turkey Science. And it's been really popular so far. We're getting a lot of great feedback. We've already had a lot of the leading scientists that are doing the turkey work and across the range of turkeys. We've had Mike Chamberlain, Brett Collier as a upcoming episode. We've had Coulter Chitwood out in Oklahoma, Dwayne Elmore, Craig Harper, all the names that people know out there. And we've got many other scientists lined up. And the idea was that we could go through the science, whether it's been published years ago or give people real time, as near as we can get to that, updates on what's going on in their state. Get opinions from these different scientists on different hypotheses of what's happening to turkeys and how we fix it. So trying to basically give people access to the scientific conversation.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
sounds good.
That's
Spread
awesome.
the word.
No doubt about it.
Everybody has a gazillion theories on turkeys, and I
We love to theorize.
Yeah, I've done it my whole
Of
life. I did
course.
it today a couple of times, but I'll do it in front of you. It's like, tell me if I'm off on this. But what I was getting at, and what occurred in my mind when you were talking too, is like the one thing I love to hear is something that either validates or negates my theory, and that's the research and the truth. That old saying is the truism. The truth will set you free, and the science behind what's going on is the truth, or getting to the truth. And so I love knowing that either my theory was bunk or it's actually something to it.
Yep.
Yeah, not everybody likes to have theirs debunked.
No, they don't. You're right. I want to know the truth. That's all I care about.
Well, I think, that's what we're trying to do is get you as close to the truth as we can.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is it's a really exciting time.
Yeah.
We've got turkey work going on in a whole bunch of places. Some of those places haven't had turkey work going on in a long time, and that's important. So also we're going to try to be a hub for that so that everybody has access to it before, so that it's not 20 years down the road before there was a turkey project in your state. And all the scientists have been really supportive, and everybody we've asked to come on the show has come on, and it's been a really interesting, enlightening time for me. I have read more about turkeys the past 6 months than I ever had before, and learned a ton from that. There's tons of great work out there. It's just not very accessible. So, it's an exciting time for us to do this kind of effort. And, I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I appreciate all the support that everybody has put behind it, because it's been really amazing.
Well, good. We're glad to hear that. And you guys are sitting in a great position to help spread a great message.
Oh, absolutely.
So we appreciate that so much. Marcus, we know you got to get on to class. There's people down there that have paid a lot of money to come hear you talk. And will you let Lanny and I know if you want us to go listen on one of your places?
We'll be glad
up
to tell you what's going on there.
We can,
I'll send y'all a couple of pins.
Do that. And when you get up here, we'll let you buy a supper at Diamond Gym.
Just let me know when they go to your place.
Hey, send a pin to the middle of Kennerbush down there, South Sumter. Let them try that one out. I did that before.
Okay.
All right, Marcus. We appreciate it. Anybody got anything else to say to Marcus before we go?
It.
Yeah, no.
I'm surprised we didn't even talk about fire gas.
I know the whole time.
I'm trying not to talk about fire. I'm so depressed. I'm glad that I did some burning in my Christmas break down in Sumter County.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't have lit a match yet. It's been terrible.
Yeah.
Poor David Hawley is going to see a psychologist right now because he has not been able to burn yet. He's the most obsessed person I've ever seen on it, and close to me. So I'm just waiting for, hopefully, while we go to Nashville and celebrate 50 years with the National Wild Turkey Federation, that it'll dry up some when I get back.
Yeah.
Let it loose.
Well, I hope so.
There you go. Well, Marcus, thank you so much, and we wish you the best.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks,
care. Marcus.
So, guys, what did we learn anything?
Oh, yeah.
Every time.
How can you not listen to him and not learn?
Hens have spurs.
10% of them. That's in the localized.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that will hold true.
The biggest cool phenomenon to talk
was that. Turkey hunting people, people that care about turkeys, care very deeply. And I know everybody, whether it's mule deer or pheasants or whatever, elk or whitetail, there's people that love them. There's people that love all of them, but there's a core, hardcore love that more than any other wildlife. And so what I'm getting at is that people care so much that it is created, because the downturn we've had has created so much energy with us and educating people to do their own thing on their own land. You hear me preaching like, just like I had a pulpit or something all the time. Let's all get in this together. But that's, what he's talking about is it spurred so much more research and so much support of that research than we've ever had. And so the real big picture of that is that we really, really care and love our wild turkey so much that we're just about willing to do anything for its prosperity. Not only because we love to hunt, because we even beyond that we love the bird so much. So that's what I see, and he's telling us about how much more is going on today and how much support he's even getting for what they're doing. And we're in a new age because we care so much about our bird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, and I feel like with all this that's going on, that like somebody's putting batteries in a flashlight, and that flashlight's fixing to cut on.
So my one little thing behind the pulpit I'd like to say, and Marcus would back me up, is like the one thing we need to be sure and do is let tough times pull us all together and not have, yay-yaying and pointing fingers and complaining too much. I mean, it's certainly voice your opinion, great. But what I'm just saying is it should for the betterment of turkeys pull us all together. I see mostly that happening. And it's a cool thing to see because I think maybe it's helping. We saw a better hatch this year. You know, people are really pulling together, and you know, the great bird puts us on the same team, no matter what organization or who you are. You know,
it does.
Competing companies with us or whoever. You know, you should be able to park it all and pull together for the bird.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That's good words. I don't think we could got anything else to add to that, Lanny. You've what have you been doing the last hour, Lanny? I see you.
I've been listening. I've been soaking it in.
I don't know how you multitask down there. It's amazing to me, but you do a good job of it. Thank you for doing it. Yeah, Dudley, you got anything else to add? This one's kind of gone. Have you got to ask Dudley, or do you want to just call this off?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I kind of think we are too. Toxie, you look like you're about to get up and run. So,
are we gonna make the announcement too?
What announcement is that?
We're one of the few people that are going to give away.
Oh yeah. You know, it's a great
Bobby.
Well, we probably lost all our listeners now. We had to rush this one. I had a trivia question for Marcus. I was going to give him a chance to win this raccoon baculum.
I'm sure.
and I know he would have wanted to win that.
Yeah.
So
I've been wondering.
We'll save that
we
for
are a
another
G-rated podcast.
What? Yeah, that's right.
Baculum is very G-rated.
No, it's not.
Yeah, well,
It's scientific, I guess.
so
speaking of living and loving wild turkeys.
Yeah, Neil sat right there, Toxie, where you're sitting, and he agreed. He said, "Let's let the Gamekeeper podcast give away a Fox Vest."
Oh my God!
Oh my
So-
God.
You got to be kidding me!
No, I'm not kidding you. So,
I can't believe he did that.
So we're trying to figure out next week on the podcast. We will announce how our listeners can.
So you're
Get
saying
a chance at winning.
There's a
So you're
sweet.
saying there's a
There's a
chance.
sweepstakes. Yeah.
There will be. We got our people. Rob is working furiously over there putting together this
Right now.
contest.
Okay.
Yep. So we will have that next week.
Wow.
Everybody
big
will have a
one.
chance
That's a
to
big
win a
one.
Fox Vest. This is going to be so
Yeah,
exciting.
it's cool. It's the coolest thing I've seen in such a long time because, and I said it, videoed me the other day about it. It's just like so overwhelming because it's just like me and my dad. I mean, we're hunting buds since our first memories, and no big deal. We just love to turkey hunt, you know. And then all of a sudden, all this attention. I mean,
It's a
for
culmination
him
of
especially.
lifetime,
I mean,
that's
I've been
right.
in the limelight since we did all this, but him especially in these years, and it's just so much outpouring of love for him.
Yeah.
And he really has no idea, a little bit, but not much. He really doesn't. And it's just so amazing and humbling. But I will say to everybody, and I'm prejudiced, but I do not know anyone ever in my life, and I can say this about my dad if I don't get teared up, that deserves it more than him. He is the purest soul you've ever met in your life. And he loves turkey so much. And as feeble as he is right now, you know, we don't know if he's ever going to get to go hunting again or not right now. It's probably unlikely, but you never, maybe miracles happen. You want to get him fired up? Show him a picture of turkeys. Bring up where you heard turkeys. Talk about turkey season coming up.
Yeah.
It is so much a part of his life. So, but thank everybody out there that has poured their love for what he stands for.
Yep.
Because it's unbelievable to our family.
Yeah.
Thank
Cool
you.
stuff.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff.
No,
That's
it is.
some good stuff. So, all right. Well, I think we've gone on long enough. I'm looking at you. Why don't you say adios, Dudley?
Adios, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.